I came into teaching, what I found out was that I had this passion for this particular job, and history in particular, and I would not step away from this for the world. I absolutely love what I do.
As far as my teaching career, I love it. I mean, this is what I want to do. And I kind of just fell into it and fell in love with it, and so there's so many perks. I'm exactly where I want to be right now.
They love history and wouldn't change where they are for the world. And now, you get to hear all about it. Get ready, ladies and gentlemen, because this is a history lesson.
The thing I enjoy most is, well, it's multiply, there's probably a multiple way to answer that. I like challenging people's preconceived notions. I like opening up new stories to them that they didn't know, especially globally.
It's challenging. I like that it changes. I like how it also connects to today. So if you were into politics or current events, knowing history is knowing who you are, where you come from, your country. So history, the subject itself, I love, and I like trying to put myself, try to become these people.
When we think about world history, sometimes it's still from a very Western or very U.S. sort of slant. What I like to do then is to explore things that other people may not see often before they see me.
There are so many things they love about teaching history, but no one's born with a textbook in hand. They had to start somewhere too.
It's an odd thing for me to think back on that, because I've always sort of been interested in trivia and politics and sort of the inner workings. I really didn't discover that I liked it until I hit college. I never really liked history in high school that much. I don't know if it was because it was of the way it was presented. There was a lot of regurgitation of material during that time frame.
Well, to be honest, I was teaching it. I was staying one day ahead of the students. All I wanted to do was coach and be with sports. And before you know it, within a couple years, I fell in love with history. So I didn't know I liked it until I was forced to teach it, but I did fall in love with teaching history.
They grew to love their jobs and managed to not only enjoy the subject itself, but even found some favorite parts of history too.
I love the American Revolution. They had something very few people on the planet faced. They had an opportunity to create a brand new government, which the world had never seen one quite like we created.
There's a lot on the 1800s. There's a lot of cool things that happened during that time frame. And two people I always liked. One at the beginning of the 1800s, which was Napoleon Bonaparte, and another one who later on who helped form up Germany, which is a guy named Otto von Bismarck. Both of them are really charismatic people. Both of them are extremely well-versed in political process. Both of them are sort of master manipulators and propagandists. But both have this ability to bring countries together in ways that they hadn't been before.
Now, despite their love of history, that doesn't mean there aren't some difficulties to teaching it, especially when you're teaching high school.
Well, many students come in with little knowledge, and I think that's the main reason they think it's boring. Like, usually whatever you're interested in, it's because you know a lot about that. Sometimes history kind of gets pushed aside. It's not as important as math or English and science. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not as practical. I find that the biggest thing is to try to keep students interested, and to help. If they learn just a little bit about it, that might spark even more interest. So that's probably the biggest challenge as far as teaching it.
They have a real limited base knowledge. We teach history through other subjects, sort of. Generally speaking, they're pretty weak on map skills, for example. They're fairly isolated in their own, they're almost cocooned, if you will, in preconceived notions and ideologies that they've heard. It's not necessarily their fault. They may not have had the chance to explore the world a little bit more.
Mr. Franklin and Mr. Pumphrey have managed to make history 20 times more interesting than it used to be. One student in particular took an extreme liking to their class. I had Mr. Franklin when I was a sophomore, and I had Mr. Pumphrey when I was in junior year. I had never encountered a class like theirs before, at all. It was completely new to me. I enjoyed their classes immensely. They were different. They were unlike any other history class I had ever gone through before. What I loved most was that they were different. It was always some new way to keep us involved. It was being intense about what they were teaching, because they enjoyed it just as much as we enjoyed listening to them teach it. It was refreshing. What I would say to Mr. Franklin and Mr. Pumphrey, if they happen to see this documentary, is thank you. Thank you, Mr. Franklin and Mr. Pumphrey, for not only making history interesting, but my new favorite subject. Thank you for one heck of a history lesson. This is Chris Crowe, signing off.